Hey guys, so a while back I did a review on an update for Universal Audio Luna, not the 2.0 review that I just did. Card up in the top if you missed that. That was like last week, but this was several months ago, right? And I noticed in the comments, got a lot of comments on that one, and one of the prevailing repetitive themes was some of the deficiencies that Luna has in regards to MIDI production. And to be completely honest with you, I don't use Luna in that capacity. I have never produced music so much in Luna. I use Luna for editing audio and also for mixing and mastering when the occasion calls for it. But when I saw those repetitive comments, I kind of made a mental note and I said, you know what, if I ever get a chance to, I want to come back to this and actually try producing a whole song using Luna instead of using Logic Pro for the MIDI and audio production, vocal production or instrumental production side of things, right? Well, that time has now come. And I didn't want to just randomly just do a track. I wanted it to be like an actual song that I was actually doing for an actual client. And in this case, the client is me, because I am redoing a song that I did years ago, back in like 2009, called Soul. And I said, you know what? This is a good opportunity. Let's see if we can produce this whole thing in Luna. And I did that. And you're not gonna hear that today. The purpose of today's video is to talk about my experience and talk about the things that I noticed, the things that about my experience overall producing in Luna, the things I liked, the things that I didn't like, and the things I would like to see them add. So let's get into it.
McCray Music.
Hi guys, how are you doing? I am richly blessed. I pray that you are as well. All right, so let's talk about this. Producing in Luna. Now, going into it, I knew the goal is not to turn it into Logic Pro, all right? I'm probably never going to stop producing MIDI in Logic Pro. So this is not a thing like, man, I'm really trying to move off of Logic. Let's see if this can replace Logic. And that's probably not gonna happen. So that was my mindset, is I don't want to come in here and nitpick everything and say, oh, well, Logic does it this way. How come Luna doesn't do it that? Because that's not gonna serve a purpose. The purpose of this is to see, can Luna function in its own way in the capacity of producing music, all right? And I have to tell you that overall, and I got some notes here, so you see me looking around, I have notes because I want to make sure that I say the stuff that, I wanted to say. But overall, I'll be honest with you, it was a good experience. I had a really good experience. There were some, it was a learning curve because there were some things that Luna does differently than Logic Pro does. So there were a couple of areas earlier on where it's moving a little more slowly than I typically like to move, because I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do I do what I would do in Logic? How do I do that here? And there's gonna be actual footage. I'll probably post some clips up in here as I'm talking, but the full video and highlights of this is going to be on the channel in the coming weeks, so look out for that. But overall, it was a very good experience. I don't feel like I was being hindered by Luna. I don't feel like I had to work harder to do the things that I needed to do. Like I said, the only obstacle was to figure out how Luna did certain things. And once I did that, it moved pretty well, right? So good experience, good job. Now, of course, there are certain things that I really liked. There are certain things I did not like. And there are some things from Logic Pro that I would love to see them add. So let's talk about the stuff that I liked, first of all. So first of all, the interface, though different, was very easy to use, right? You had to figure out, how certain things translate, but it wasn't like a lot of hunting and digging through menus and real clunky stuff. It was a very simple, very easy to use interface. The fact that I have considerable experience using Luna already definitely helped, because it was Luna. So, the interface is what the interface is, but even digging into the MIDI settings and finding the piano roll and doing different things like that, being able to go in and adjust settings, it was very logical. I love when programs do things the way that you would think that they would do them. Well, Luna, the interface for me was that way. So that was a positive. Another positive that I liked was the ability to create mono tracks, all right? To create mono tracks. Logic Pro does everything in stereo. And I know that technically you can go in and you can load mono instances of a plugin. And I know if you're recording audio, you can do a mono input. But if you're just loading up, if you just load up a VST in Logic Pro and you don't change anything, it's going to load it up in stereo, right? And I like the fact that I was able to, in Luna, go in and manually say, hey, I want to insert mono tracks for my drums. I want to insert a stereo track for this pad, right? And I could just do that right off the bat without having to change anything. I really liked that. I really liked the, and this is just a general Luna thing that carried over to the MIDI stuff. I really liked the plugin organization, just the ease with which you can find the specific plugins that you want was really cool. Logic can be a little convoluted with that, which is why they added the search feature for plugins, which helps a lot with that. But, you know, Apple kind of puts their stuff first and then, you know, other things are in another area and it can have a couple extra steps. Whereas with Luna, all your plugins are right there. Obviously, some of the plugins from Apple like Alchemy and things like that were not there, but I really don't use a lot of those other than Alchemy and maybe some of like definitely the studio performer instruments and things like that. I use those, but outside of that, the majority of my instruments are from Native Instruments and Spectrasonics and, you know, gospel producers and other different companies. So all my stuff was right there. And on that note, it was really cool because I did not have access to all of my preset sounds and things that I, you know, sometimes go to in Logic. It kind of forced me to try some different things. And I will say, as a side note, I was really impressed with the Universal Audio, the UADX Shape instrument plugin. I was really impressed. There's some really cool sounds there, the way you're able to tweak some of the settings there, so that was cool. But the overall arrangement of the plugins and how you can get to your instruments, I really liked that. It made the workflow a lot quicker. Inside of Luna, when you're going into the piano roll, the velocity settings are represented as vertical lines, which I really liked. In Logic, it's different. Now, it still changes the shading of the colors as you go to a higher velocity. It's going to be a darker color, and as you pull back, it's going to be a lighter one, similar to what Logic Pro would do. But, you know, rather than just changing a velocity like numerical setting over on the side, is a vertical line for each note. And you can see very clearly where the peaks are, and if you need to pull something down, you could do that. So I really liked that. That was cool, right? Not better than how Logic does it, but different, and I appreciated that difference, so that was cool. Now, here's the one thing I will say that I think Luna does better than Logic Pro when it comes to production, and that is the gain staging. The gain staging was much more realistic and much better to me in Luna than in Logic Pro. Logic Pro, for some reason, everything is loud. And maybe it's the metering, but no, I don't think it's the metering, because I feel like the overall volume of the track, like when you throw a plugin into Logic Pro, it like boosts that thing through the roof sometimes, it feels like, and you got to spend time going in and turning down samples and doing things like that to, you know, kind of get your gain staging under control. And I don't really feel like I had to do a lot of that with Luna. The overall track at the end came out a little bit quieter, which is fine because I like to mix quietly anyway, and then I can always use a limiter or something to just boost the overall sound at the end if I need to do that. But I thought the gain staging, I could definitely notice a difference in the gain staging there. All right, so that was cool. All right, now to the things I don't like, and there really is only one main thing. There's a second thing that's not as bad, but the one thing that I did not like about Luna is actually the thing I got multiple comments about in that Luna update video, and that is the piano roll. Oh, the piano roll in Luna is awful. Just because it does not have a dedicated piano roll, right? So like in Logic Pro, you have your MIDI, and then if you press the letter E, your piano roll comes up on the bottom separate from your MIDI clips, right? So, you know, you can move your MIDI clips around or whatever, and then when you click on it, you can see your piano roll. It's dedicated, it's right there. You can actually press on the keys and see the notes. You can, you know, resize it as much as you want. Everything is right there. Luna's just does not do that. It is not a dedicated piano roll. It is a view that you have to go to, right? And it's the default view, but so, you know, right there in your clip, and just in case, I'll probably have a image of it on screen right now, but just like how, you know, you would edit see your WAV file, right? And then you can switch your WAV file to view like automation parameters, view volume, or view mutes, or view, you know, different things like that. The piano roll is basically one of those views. And so that means that you have to jump back and forth between views if you want to edit the notes versus if you want to edit the clips. And that was, very bad. And then because it's not dedicated, if you want to really get in there and edit some stuff, now you got to resize your track. You got to zoom your tracks way in and then zoom them back out, or zoom them out and then zoom them back in. And it's just a lot of extra work. So if the one thing that kind of made things a little more clunky was just having to deal with that piano roll. Now, the actual functionality of it was cool. Like, it did what a piano roll does. You can move notes around, you can quantize and all the things, right? But the placement of it and how you get to it and how you use it, I don't like. I don't like it. It's not good. I said, oh, this is what these folks were talking about in my comment section. This is terrible, right? So that is one of the things that would really keep me from doing serious MIDI production in Luna, is just that piano roll just has to go. It has to be a dedicated piano roll that you can pull up, kind of like how they're doing with the ARA stuff, where you can pull up Melodyne and things and Vocal Line at the bottom. That's what the piano roll needs to be, right? So Universal Audio, please change that piano roll. It is awful. It's not good. The other thing, kind of in the same vein, that I did not like is I noticed that over time, as I had more and more instruments and my production got more dense, I noticed that the recordings all started coming in early, right? So, you know, you record your MIDI, you play a keyboard part or whatever, and it sounds on time. And then when you play it back, everything would be like super early, which is not the worst thing in the world, you know, because the quantize is very good. So the quantize would fix it. But I found that interesting. Like, the longer I went, like, the more stuff all of a sudden started coming in really early, and I had to slide stuff around and fix it. Which is different, because usually you start to see things coming in late as the processing power starts getting taxed more. You'll see things coming in late, but that wasn't the case. Everything came in early. Speaking of which, I did notice that it handled the processing very well. I didn't get a lot of clicks and pops or anything like that, and I had a good number of instruments and things in there, and I had the buffer very low. So I actually feel like it did a slightly better job of that than Logic Pro does, because I usually try to keep the buffer at like 128, but with Logic Pro, after you get enough instruments in there, you got to bump that thing up, or it's going to start like just stopping and restarting and just things like that. So I noticed Luna did a bit of a better job handling that than Logic Pro did. All right. Things that I would like to have come over from Logic Pro is not much, all right? Not much, because one of the things I like about Luna is you can change the shortcuts. You can actually, they have a preset shortcut group for like Pro Tools shortcuts, Logic shortcuts, right? So you can switch to whatever application shortcuts you want. I customized mine, so I changed a couple things, right? I made the letter Q be for quantize instead of whatever it was for. So those things you could fix. I don't care about that. But the one feature I would love to have them bring over from Logic Pro is the track stacking, right? And the take folders, but we'll talk about that when I'm gonna do some vocal production in there next. So we'll talk about that in a separate video. But the track stacking, the ability to grab multiple tracks and just quickly hit a button and have it go ahead and sum them or just create a folder. that would be awesome, right? That feature is not available in Luna, so you have to do it the old school way of creating an aux and then sending stuff to the aux and hiding the other tracks. But if they could bring that track stack feature in, that would be fantastic. That would kind of make life a little bit easier, right? But again, overall, I thought it was a great experience. Other than that piano roll, that was the only thing that kind of soured me on the experience a little bit. But piano roll aside, it did what I needed it to do. And I enjoyed it. Like I said, it's not going to take me away from Logic Pro, but if you don't have Logic Pro, or if you already have Luna and you don't want to spend the money for a Logic Pro or whatever other DAW, it's good to know that Luna can handle it. And it does a way better job with the MIDI stuff than Pro Tools did, because Pro Tools was god-awful with MIDI stuff back in the day. Maybe they've gotten better, to be fair to them. Maybe they've gotten better, but back in the day, woo boy, like you did not want to use Pro Tools to do MIDI stuff, in my experience, right? So it's not that kind of situation. Luna can get the job done, and if you're a staunch Luna user, go ahead and use Luna to do all of your MIDI production, all right? Like I said, there's going to be content, lots of content on this channel from that series where I'm producing the MIDI, I'm producing vocals, I'm doing all the things for the song. We'll have several videos, some highlight content. We are going to start doing some members videos. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. Some of that content will be for members of this channel. We'll talk more about that and how you can become a part of that. All right, please take a moment and like this video and subscribe to this channel. And I hope that was helpful for you, those of you who are interested in using Luna for MIDI production. All right, see you guys next time. Peace.